All right, welcome back, Chemistry. Today I'm going to cover section 1.3 titled Elements. I find that it's weird they include this section on chapter 1 because later on in the semester they actually have like a whole chapter dedicated to the periodic table. So this is like a preview, and we're just going to do our element project and kind of just get it over with. So here are elements. So the periodic table organizes our elements based on their chemical properties. We've had a few discussions on this already. Some elements are metals. Okay, and you can see that I highlighted in blue. So most elements on the periodic table are metals. Some elements are nonmetals, which means they're not shiny, they're not metallic, they could be gases. And then we have the elements that are in between the metals and the nonmetals. And we call them metalloids because they share properties between the two. So maybe they are good conductors, but they're brittle. Okay. So the periodic table organizes our elements by chemical properties. The vertical columns are called groups or families. And so elements that are found in the same group means they have similar properties. If I look at group 1, we call group 1 the alkali metal. Remember, they have one valence electron. That's why I have a +1 on the periodic table. They will get rid of that electron to fulfill an outer shell of electrons. So they're highly reactive. They react with air and water. Group 2 means they have 2 valence electrons. So they're reactive, but not as reactive as group 1. Again, they do react with air and water, but it's not as explosive or as exciting as group 1. The horizontal rows are called periods. And if you find an element in the same period, that just means they have the same principal energy, like all the electrons are in this, okay, not all of them, but the outermost electrons, also known as valence, are found in this energy level. And when you move across a period from left to right, it increases by a proton number. So metals are left and center of the periodic table. Some properties of metals: shiny, metallic luster, conductor of heat, electricity. They are malleable, which means they can be hammered or rolled into sheets. And then finally ductile, which means you can draw them into a wire. Nonmetals are primarily on the right side of the periodic table. Their gases are solid, they are brittle, they are very, very poor conductors or have low conductivity. Some examples: sulfur. You can see sulfur is in group 16, period 3. I think this is fluorine, group 17, period 2. This is air, it's kind of a mixture. Iodine, I2, group 17, period 5. So these are all great examples of nonmetal elements. The ones between metals and nonmetals are called metalloids. So they have some characteristics of metals as well as some nonmetals. We tend to call metalloids semiconductors because they're brittle, but they can conduct electricity. So the semiconductors, or the metalloids that we have for us, are borons. Basically just follow the green line on my periodic table. Boron, silicon, then it goes to underneath silicon is germanium, and right by germanium is arsenic. Then you have antimony right underneath arsenic, and then beryllium. Okay, so what is in a name? This is the final thing I want to look at, is how do we name elements? So in your assignment, you're going to have to look up, what does your name mean? Okay, so if I look at my name, Brittany, I find that it's a French town, and it's actually derived from the word Britannia, which is a Roman goddess. So I included a picture of her, and she's actually pre-BA. So yay, I kind of like that. That's pretty sweet. So let me pull up the assignment here. So it says element nomenclature. Do you know what your name means? The vast majority of names are rooted in history and have a meaning that is often forgotten as the name is passed down from generation to generation. And you can go on to read about how water was named, and astenine, how that's named. So what is the meaning of your first name? And then these questions right here, see if you can figure it out, what the elements are. A sequence of 3 elements named after a series of 3 planets. So using a periodic table, try to figure out which 3 elements, which means they're side by side, like literally in a row, are named after 3 planets. Here's another one. Chemists described this element as cryptic, meaning hidden, because it is colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas with a concentration of only 1 part per million in the atmosphere. So see if you can figure out which element they are describing. So these are like clues, and you need to try to figure out what element that they're describing, by looking at a periodic table. And then the second page are questions that I took from your book. So it says use the periodic table, write the names for the following elements. So looking at the symbols, can you name them? Write the symbols, so we'll go backwards. So here are the names, write the symbols. And then some more questions for you. So this is due tomorrow. And then tomorrow is a work day for your chemical element project. Now, I'm going to go back a slide because I'll show you this slide. This is some false information. Your review guide is not due tomorrow. Your review guide is due Friday. But where can you find the information that we just went over? Pages 20 to 24 in your book.